I don't even know where he's sitting at.
Oh my fucking god. Best time of the year. The season finale. The first week of the playoffs. Everything's on the fucking line. Let's get into it. I'm not going to spend a terrible amount of time, too long of time on last week because regular season is old news. The 6 teams that deserved to get in the playoffs did, and the 4 that didn't try at all during the year didn't deserve to make it, so they're in the consolation bracket. Quickly, I shellacked Tom. Team was looking hot last week, looking playoff ready. They're ready for their bye week and off week, get rested and right for the semifinals. Embiid put up big numbers for me. I would have been 8-1 last week, only would have lost to John. Finished the season in first place all by myself. Tom, on the other hand, would have been 3-4-2, winning versus Nick, Jackson, and Drew, tying Chris and Tim. Tom finishes in 6th place by himself with a record of 10-7-3. Alec had an easy one versus Nick, a total layup here, over 300-point difference. Just wasn't close at all. Both had very low blocks, but Al didn't need to do much here. Alec finishes in 4th place. Record would have been 5-3-1 this week, only losing to myself, John, and Sawyer, and tying Tim. Meanwhile, Nick would have been 1-8, only winning versus Jackson, finishing in 8th place. John, team just looks unreal, doesn't even need to make ad drops, and he, for either the second or the third time this year, tied the league record for double-doubles, putting up 19. Team is firing on all cylinders right now. Just mayhem. An absolute beatdown. Only category lost was turnovers. John finishing by himself in 3rd place, 9-0 this week, and John has been 32-3-1 over the past month. I think that's right. I'm going to double check that. But Chris, on the other hand, finishes in 9th place, record of 3-5-1 this week, beating Nick, Jackson, Drew, and tying Tom. On to Tim and Jackson. Jackson could have made this a close one had he felt like it, but for whatever reason, the bottom 4 teams just like to leave injured players in their starting lineups, and that's not going to get you anywhere. Tim would have been 4-3-2 this week, losing myself, John, and Sawyer, tying Tom and Alec. Tim finishes in 5th place, record of 12-7-1 on the year. Meanwhile, Jackson finishing in last, 0-9 on the week. Mission accomplished. Good job, Jackson. Finally, Sawyer versus Drew. Sawyer's team, once again, highest field goal percentage in the league, most steals and blocks, had a triple-double to boot. Sawyer finishes in 2nd place. Would have been 7-2 this week, only losing to myself and John. Riding a 4-game win streak into the playoffs. Meanwhile, Drew finishes in 7th place, would have been 2-7, only beating Nick and Jackson. Drew, having the ultimate cheat code of a player in the setup of our league, it is just a damn shame that Jokic is not going to be in the playoffs this year. That's brutal. I feel bad for him. He's like LeBron, for the first 5 or 6 years of our league, he's not even making the playoffs. Jokic just should be in the playoffs just this year, wreaking havoc on the rest of the league, but it's not meant to be. Speaking of which, once again, he's probably been player of the week, 80% of the time. Yahoo's number one ranked player of the week, 600 from the field, 119 points scored, 55 rebounds, 36 assists, 6 blocks, 4 double-doubles, and a triple-double for Jokic. He averaged 29.8 points, 13.8 rebounds, 9.0 assists, and a double-double on the week, and 1.5 blocks. Crazy. That's going to be the long and the short of it for last week's review. I'm going to put a bunch of attachments in the email. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just real quickly, I've got the top 3 in each category, so top 3 players and all the categories besides percentages. One quick thing I compiled over the year is total amount of games played per players, and ranked them in our league. And that came out. John had the most players play this year with 991 players. I was in second with 988. Tom was in third with 983. Alec in fourth with 960. Sawyer in fifth with 957. And Chris surprisingly had the sixth most players played at 885. Surprisingly, somehow had that many players go, but still ended in ninth place. And it goes down the line from there. I also, on this sheet, there's a complete record thing, so I totaled up all of the wins, losses, and ties. Sawyer was number 1, I was number 2, John number 3, Alec number 4, Tom number 5, and Tim number 6, and then losers on down. So go ahead and take a look at that if you want. There's also the season top 10 players season total in categories throughout the year and top 10 players in average throughout the season. So go ahead and take a peek at that if you want. I'm not going to go through that. It's pretty consistent. There's also the total category sheet. So who had the highest totals in each category. Just Sawyer and I just basically dominated the ones and twos here. And it kind of just goes down the list. How I have our names set up is in no particular order. It just shows how many times you finished in first, second, third, or last. Have fun with that one. What I do want to get onto is the quarterfinal playoff prediction. I've done some computing. I've melded the stats together, and this is what it has spit out for me to show all of you. First matchup is the 3 seed John versus the 6 seed Tom. These two teams played each other 3 times in the regular season. Week 1, Tom beat John 8-3. Week 10, Tom beat John 9-2. And the second to last week of the year, week 19, John over Tom 9-1. Over the last month, now this might not mean much to everybody, but just over the last month, John has, if you're facing everybody in our league, John has gone 32-3-1. So he's only not won 4 total games over the past month. He's been 3-1 in his last 4 matchups, wins versus Nick, Chris, and Tom, only losing to myself. Meanwhile, Tom, on the other hand, his versus everyone been 14-16-6. So 14 wins, 16 losses, and 6 ties. Tom is 2-2 over the last month, beating Drew and Jackson and losing to Ray and John. Now, right there, Tom's team is, his name is Super Spreaders for a reason. He had a shitload of COVID problems, and he's still dealing with a bunch of injuries right now. Giddy being out is rough. OG and Anobi being out is rough. And I know he's got at least one more injury down there. Couple of guys just with those out tags right now. It's not looking too healthy for Tom. On Tom, though, SGA and KD just got to keep doing their thing if he's hoping to win. He needs big weeks from Levine, who's got 3 games, Jordan Poole, who's got 3 games, and Josh Hart, who's got 4 games. And Josh Hart looks like an incredible player right now. Needs to hope he basically goes all out. There are injuries to Rocco and Beef Stew. I believe Covington is not playing tonight, and Beef Stew is probable either for tonight or tomorrow. But just the injuries are piling up, and it might be too much to overcome there. Meanwhile, John, on the flip side, his team is firing on all cylinders, and I think as the commissioner, I'm just going to make an edict that I'm just going to take Simmons off of your team because you don't need him. Your team's already playing very well, and you should just let it ride and see how it goes. You don't want to add that toxicity into the team chem you've been building. John's got 3 games from Towns this week, 3 games from Luka, and only 2 games from Bam. Would like to have more because Bam's playing at a very high level right now, but Fox and Luka are both playing at such high levels right now. It might just be too much to handle. Currently, before any additional ad drops are made, Tom currently has a 4-player advantage over John this week, 46 players to 42. That is being said if everybody plays, not counting injured players. And then if you add up the categories throughout the year, I just basically said who had the most in, who had the higher free throw percentage, who had the lower, and that's who you're giving the win to. Based on that, if you do it across all categories, John would technically win this matchup 8-3. But Tom is very close to John in field goal percentage, 3-pointers, and steals. So let's say you take those 3 and give them to Tom and take them away from John. That's a 6-5 victory in Tom's favor. Now that also means that someone's got to score a triple-double there. which I would think John's team is a little more likely to do just because of Luka. But I think this is, as long as Tom can make some solid ad drops, even though John's going to be ad dropping as well, I think this can be close, but I do predict John over Tom with a 6-4 winning. On to the other matchup of Tim versus Alec. These two only played each other twice in the regular season. In Week 8, Tim beat Alec 7-3, and in Week 17, Alec beat Tim 8-3. Over the last month, Alec's team has been 20-11-5 versus everyone in the league, and he is 3-1 over his last month with wins against Tim, myself, Nick, and only a loss for Sawyer. So 2 playoff quality wins there and 1 playoff loss. But having already beaten Tim within the past month, Alec's going to be feeling pretty good about himself about who he's playing now. Meanwhile, Tim would be 13-13-10 versus everyone over the past month, and he's 2-2 over the last month in actual win-loss. He has beaten Drew and Jackson and lost to Alec and Sawyer. So similarly to Tom, his 2 wins came against non-playoff teams and 2 losses came to playoff teams. So hopefully that's not boding well for Tim's sake. Tim's big hitters do have a good amount of games this week. Tatum has 3 games, Randall has 3 games, and Sabonis has 4 games. Really need CJ to come back big time. And if Drew Holiday could start hitting some more shots, that would be great. CJ is supposed to come back tomorrow. That was his player note. That does mean Tim's going to have to drop somebody to get him into that spot, but Tim doesn't seem too keen on making any ad drops at all this year. I believe, I'm not going to go look at it, but he had like the 3rd fewest in the entire league this year of ad drops. Also, Tim, Lou Dort was ruled out for the entire regular season last week. You need to drop him out of your IL Plus. That way you can throw somebody in there and make some moves here. I have no idea why you're still holding on to him. For Alec, Pascal has 4 games. Harden has 4 games. He's currently going out. Jimmy Butler only has 2 games. Looks like John Collins might be out for 2 to 3 weeks. That's a pretty big blow for Alec's team. I don't know why. I think you drafted him either 3rd or 4th overall, or round overall, which I have no idea. That's way too high for him, but he might be out for the rest of the playoffs. And Butler's been sitting a lot recently. I think he's sat 3 games over his past 8 or so. I don't know. I think he's got some nagging injuries, and they're just kind of lessening the load until the actual playoffs start. But I think the biggest key for Alec's team were that Harden not play any playoff caliber teams because Harden is a baby back bitch. Alec currently has a 2-player advantage over Tim, 45-43, before ad drops are made. And then similarly, what I did with John and Tom, who had the highest total in each category, and you guys will be able to see this when I send this sheet to you. But if all were to play out that way, Alec would have an 8-3 advantage. However, Alec and Tim are very close in rebounds, steals, turnovers, and double-doubles. So let's say Tim feels like making an ad drop or 2. Let's say Alec's team isn't quite up to snuff. This could be a really close matchup, and I do predict it's going to be a close matchup. I am saying right now, Alec over Tim, 6-5. That is your Week 20 regular season review. That is your quarterfinal playoff review. Let's get it, boys. I'm fucking jacked.